Before we start, just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. Only 2% are subscribed. At 1,000 subscribers, I'll be posting a special video. The door rattled under his fists and the chain jumped twice. I leaned in and held it with my forearm. "I'm Lena, 31, I told the wood like a witness. "Stop hitting or I call someone now." Silence pressed back like a held breath. Lena let me in, breathless, too quick. "I only need a minute." Metal scraped the peephole as he shifted closer. A second shadow flicked down the stairwell and vanished. I froze my hand on the chain. "What changed?" I asked through the gap. He pressed his forehead there and did not blink. "There's trouble," came low like he'd practiced. "The word trouble hangs when you know it's personal." I kept the lock where it was. He showed both hands, knuckles split and swelling. "No story, just proof, and I hate proof." "Not here," I said, voice even and slow. "Name the risk before you enter." He glanced back toward the stairs like something waited. "Please," his jaw kept working while nothing came out. I walked away from a bad idea. "You walked away from me months ago." He flinched and finally met my eyes. I unhooked one link, not two. He tried to push, I held solid. "You don't get momentum here." He backed off half a step, hands up. "I'll talk where you can see me." I opened until the chain held firm. He stood in the slice of doorway like a defendant. "I need to come home." His mouth kept forming home like it might open itself. I let the word close and drop. "Say what follows after need." A phone buzzed somewhere behind him. He twitched like a wire had sparked. "Ignore that, too fast to trust." "Wrong answer," I said, keeping the door's edge. The buzzing stopped like it had heard me. "I made a mess and it's following me." "Is it a person or a debt?" "A person," his eyes cut to the stairs again. "Does that person know this address?" He swallowed and the swallow said yes. "Then you are not crossing this threshold." He stared at my feet like the floor might help. "Give me 5 minutes where I stand." The hall light hummed and then clicked off. We stood inside a dim coin of urgency. "Start it tonight," I told him, and nothing earlier. We met, it went wrong, I left fast. The pronoun's a dodge. He nodded once like I had stamped it. "Someone wants something I won't give." "What do they want?" He rubbed at his wrist until a bracelet slid free. I recognized it and heat hit my throat. It should not have been with him. He noticed my stare and tucked it deeper. "You're walking in with evidence that isn't yours." He breathed hard through his nose and steadied. "I didn't steal it, it was shoved at me. So they can drag you by it later." He held that look like he finally understood. His phone lit, screen bright on his palm. A preview flashed a name I didn't recognize. "Do not answer," I thought, and waited. He almost tapped, then looked at me. I tapped the chain and shook my head. "Say the threat in one sentence." "If I don't comply, they come here." My stomach compressed and then hardened. "Then we act like they're already outside." He closed his eyes and exhaled slowly. "You want to use me as cover." He flinched and did not argue. "I won't be a shield again." "Tell me what you've promised them already." His throat worked and nothing came out. He held his arms out, sleeves up. "I'm done promising, I swear." Swearing is empty without details. He stared over my shoulder at our hallway clock. Time mattered more than feelings right now. "I need a plan that keeps my name clean." He nodded once like a soldier taking orders. "You are going to stand in the hall. You will call whoever that is and decline. You will keep me in earshot." He shifted, then set his feet and readied. "Do I get the chain open if I do this?" "You get the option to ask again." His mouth twitched and steadied. He lifted the phone like a white flag. He hovered over the call icon and hesitated. "Your hesitation is my answer." He touched the screen and put it on speaker. Ringing 3 beats, then a voice like a smile. "Hey hero, you back yet?" His jaw tightened until it clicked. I'm not coming, words landed like bricks. I'm done with this, he kept his gaze on me. The voice turned sharp enough to cut. That's not how we play. Then you'll hear from someone else. Try it, I said into the air, calm. We're recording now, it wasn't true yet. The lie worked because confidence is a lever. The line went dead without a goodbye. He lowered the phone and tried to breathe. Good, now the second step. His shoulders rose like a storm tide. You inform someone who can document this. He stared at the floor and knew who. You hated me when I refused openness. The sentence left my mouth before I could choose it. I hate you now for bringing danger home. Both truths can sit together once spoken. He nodded like a verdict had fallen. Stand there while I get the next thing. I closed the door until the chain drew tight. My hands shook on. Lie once, then steadied. I grabbed the cheap recorder from the drawer we hide. Some lies need to become true fast. I reopened and set it on the shoe rack. Say your full name and that you are safe. He did it, voice rough and small. State that you will contact the proper authority tomorrow. He did that too and didn't look away. The stairwell creaked again and went still. I stared past him at the turn in the landing. If a face appeared there, I would slam and bar. Nothing moved, which worried me more. Silence is a trap when you expect footsteps. You get one night's chance to prove change. Guest room if I unlock this. No keys yet, no access to me. His eyes watered and then cleared. I accept every condition. I slid the chain back and watched him blink. He took one step inside and stopped on command. I held out my palm and waited. He placed the bracelet there without a word. Tomorrow that small thing would explode everything. I slid the bar and pointed to the hallway. Hands visible, he raised them slow. Left pocket contents here, he emptied it in silence. A thin band landed last, warm against my palm. Its weight felt like a doorbell with teeth. Inventory out loud. Wallet, keys that aren't mine, receipts. No blades, no powder. I split the pile into two neat lines. Only one line would stay under my roof tonight. Speaker on, call the number from earlier. He thumbed the screen and stared at me. Now the word moved him like a lever. The tone pulsed twice, then a woman answered. Her voice came bright, then sharpened. Change of plan, he said without flinching. I'm done, do not contact me again. A short laugh crackled through the phone. You forget what I hold, a pause stretched. Then hold it while a lawyer listens. I reached for the recorder and clicked start. State that this is harassment, I told him. He did, steady enough to count. On the line, a hiss, then a threat. Nice apartment, be a shame if news spread. My tongue went dry and my spine locked. Confirm you will report this message tomorrow. He repeated it word for word. I leaned toward the mic and spoke clearly. Further contact triggers police and corporate. The call ended with dead air. We listened like it might resurrect itself. It didn't, which did not ease anything. I saved the clip and labeled it A. We would need more letters before dawn. He rubbed his wrists like they still burned. Keep those marks visible, I told him. You document before sleep. He looked to the hallway like he wanted escape. There was none without proof tonight. Your choices start with an email, I said. You send a summary to HR, brief and factual. No apologizing, no pleading. Your job asks for clarity, not poetry. He nodded once and unlocked his phone. He typed, I stood so close I could read. I stopped him when he softened a line. Cut misunderstanding, use extortion and third party. He deleted and rephrased and breathed through it. He hit send and stared at the tiny whoosh. Next message goes to yourself. Forward those threats in tonight's timestamp. He complied and copied me in. The inbox chimed twice in under a minute. Paper trails save futures and marriages only sometimes. A thud echoed from the landing outside. He looked at me, eyes begging for orders. Lights down, voices low. I pocketed the band and pocketed my fear. We pressed our backs to opposite walls and listened. Footsteps moved past our door and stopped. A knuckle slid along wood like a match. "Open up, hero," muffled, sweet and cruel. I felt my pulse hit a steady drum. He mouthed my name and I shook my head. I lifted the recorder and set it near the seam. "State again you are safe and refuse contact." He spoke evenly, more anchored than before. The voice outside tapped once, slow, taunting. Then retreat, then the stair rail groaned. We waited until silence felt intentional. "Two more steps," I whispered, and he followed. "You block her everywhere." He showed me his screen while he tapped. Each block landed like a held breath, turning solid. "Now your supervisor." He blanched but dialed and set it down. A voicemail picked up with a crisp chime. He delivered the headline without soft edges. I watched his shoulders lift at the final period. "We're not done," he swallowed and steadied. "You will scan your injuries for records. Angles, dates, close-ups." He stood under the hall lamp and squared himself. Every click felt like a small verdict. I pulled on gloves and sealed the thin band in a bag. "Label," I murmured and wrote today's time. "You will not touch this again." I slid the bag into a shoebox and taped it twice. "Evidence can sit quiet and still cut later." "Bed," his voice was smaller than before. "Couch for you," I said and pointed. "No drinks, no calls, no pleading. Set an alarm for 9. The clinic opens then and you will go." He nodded and folded himself down. "Careful." I stood until he stopped watching me. He looked like someone learning how to breathe. I felt nothing merciful and nothing theatrical. I felt ready for whoever knocked next. I took my phone and typed a single line. "To my attorney friend, subject urgent. Threats tonight, evidence secured, can you advise?" I hit send and stayed by the entrance. Sleep would not beat vigilance tonight. A soft ping answered from my pocket. "Tomorrow at noon, call me." Short, perfect, enough to get through morning. I locked every interior latch and wiped the counter. I wanted no prints that were not ours. He stirred, then sat up again. "Thank you for not leaving me outside." I did not give him comfort. "You will earn minutes here, not hours." He sank back, eyes open to the ceiling. I turned off the hall lamp and kept the entry light. Shadow covered most of the room like a curtain. I placed the recorder beside me and watched the door. My thoughts ordered themselves like a checklist. At the end of the list, divorce waited. A photo hit my screen before dawn, our door in frame. No caption, just a timestamp and a smile emoji. I felt heat rise and my hands went still. I snapped a screenshot and flagged it urgent. Someone had stood outside while we pretended calm. Up, I nudged his shoulder and pointed to the image. He sat bolt straight and wiped his mouth. "Quiet mode now," I toggled his ringer and mine. I forwarded the photo to my contact with 2 words. Another ping landed before I exhaled. A new message showed the stairwell from below. "Come down and talk like adults." I typed one line back through clenched teeth. "Stop contacting or meet a report." 3 dots danced and then vanished. "Clinic at 9 stays," I told him, firm. "After that, station, then work." He nodded and reached for his shoes. An envelope kissed the gap under the door. We both stared at it like it breathed. "Back away," I whispered and lifted my phone. I recorded my hands as I slid it closer. Inside, a bar wrist tag with a number. Not the one from last night, a fresh twin. My stomach tightened as if it recognized the pattern. I photographed both bands together for the file. The printed number matched the venue's format. A second slip fell with a soft scratch. "Locker 14 wants its friend." I smelled a setup and planned anyway. "You go get tested and call me outside." He scratched his jaw and stood. "If anyone tails you, change direction twice." He repeated it like a checklist under pressure. I watched the door until he cleared the corner. I dialed the club landline and asked for security. Lost and found, I said, and gave the number. A pause, keys clacking, then a cautious tone. Locker rentals flagged last night after a disturbance. I asked if police were notified and heard hesitation. Hold that thought, I said, and ended the call. My inbox chimed with a calendar block from HR. 10:30 mandatory, no subject. Attach threats in the voicemail now, I texted him. If he wavered, I would drive him there myself. Unknown number again, this time just typing bubbles. I waited them out and kept the camera rolling. Bring what you took and we settle, came finally. How much is settle, I replied, keeping it flat. $5,000 and discretion floated back like bait. Public spot cameras noon, I answered without bluff. Only if you come alone, she wrote, predictable. Not happening, I sent and muted the thread. My pulse leveled as the rule held. Meetings need witnesses and exits. I pinged my attorney and laid out the timing. Do not hand over cash, she wrote back. Ask for proof of claim and identity. Record alert authorities arrive with someone. I replied with a thumbs up in the club detail. I opened the taped box and took out the band. On the inside, a faint engraving near the clasp. 4 digits, a letter, then a slash. I zoomed in and wrote it down slowly. Locker tags rarely come with initials. His message popped up from outside the clinic. Signed in, waiting, will test for everything. He sent a selfie with forms in frame. Keep copies for the complaint, I replied. Compliance helps, but only if it's documented. The building intercom buzzed with a short burst. I froze and watched the screen with my thumb poised. A delivery driver held up a blank packet. I let it ring out and go dark. They wanted motion, I gave them stillness. I packed the bands, photos, in the phone log. I added a short note summarizing threats. I locked it in my tote with the recorder. Every item would be opened only in front of someone official. I checked the peephole and saw no one. He texted again, done here, coming back for station. Meet me outside by the bus stop, I wrote. I left the apartment 5 minutes ahead. Downstairs, the street felt staged and quiet. A sedan idled too long at the corner. I crossed, doubled back, then crossed again. The car didn't move, which told me enough. He arrived on foot with his hood up. We didn't speak until we turned the block. We headed toward the precinct with our mouths closed. Inside, I asked for an officer handling cyber extortion. I placed the packet on the desk and stood straight. We played the voicemail and showed the door photos. The officer's pen scratched and paused. Do not meet without us nearby. I already proposed noon at a busy plaza. He nodded and wrote the location down. Text us once she confirms attendance. I gave our numbers and tapped send on the bait. The answer came fast, yes, and don't be late. We stepped back onto the sidewalk with a plan. As we reached the curb, a window slid down. A voice we both recognized drifted out. Cute recorder bluff last night. The car rolled away with unhurried confidence. He looked at me like he might shatter. Split now, I said and pointed. You to the office, straight line, then stay visible. I go to the club to verify the locker. We would regroup only with more leverage. I grabbed a rideshare and watched the mirrors. No tail that I could confirm on the move. At the entrance, a guard eyed the tag number. He led me to a counter and scanned both. His brow lifted and then settled hard. Locker 14 holds a phone and cash, he murmured. Owner reported a theft 2 hours ago. Describe the owner, I asked and kept my face neutral. Short hair, confident, diamond S. Todd, he said. The description fit the voice like a glove. Open it with me watching, I requested calmly. He called a manager and unlocked the metal door. A plastic tray slid out with a sealed pouch. I took photos without touching the contents. The phone lit up with a message preview. Where are you? I need that band. The sender name matched our night calls. I captured the screen and the timestamp. The manager crossed his arms and waited. Someone was about to walk in and claim it. A man breezed in with a rehearsed smile. Lost a locker key last night, number 14. He flashed a card and tapped the tray. I stepped back and lifted my phone higher. He noticed and altered his tone mid-sentence. "We can't release without police present," the manager said. The man's jaw flexed and his eyes cut to me. He clicked his tongue and left as quickly as he came. I followed 3 steps and stopped at the threshold. He was already on his phone, already escalating. I ducked into the restroom and sent the images. To the officer, to my contact, to myself again. Backup beats memory when fear gets loud. I wiped my hands and squared my shoulders. The meet at noon had just gained a sharper edge. On my way out, the guard handed me a slip. "Bring that to the precinct so we can release later." I tugged it with our growing stack of proof. Outside, the air felt thinner and more useful. I typed a message to him with 3 words. "Noon is live," he responded with a single dot. I understood he was with management and keeping quiet. I walked toward the plaza and counted exits. 1 path to the station, 1 path to a bank. 1 path into a crowd that could swallow anyone. Another text from the unknown number flashed up. "Cash ready or I pick a door to knock." I let the threat sit and then baited it. "Public spot only, you get the band when I feel safe." She replied with a photo of his workplace front. I stopped and breathed through the choice. Protect his job or spring the trap early. I typed slowly so my hands would obey. "Come alone at noon, prove your claim, then trade." No dot appeared, which meant she was thinking. I reached the plaza benches and sat facing traffic. My phone vibrated in a staggered rhythm. Attorney, officer, him, all checking in. I answered each with simple confirmations and the locker detail. Across the street, the sedan eased into a space and waited. She arrived 5 minutes early and chose the fountain edge. Short hair that stud catching light, shoulders thrown back. I stayed on the bench and texted the officer 1 word. "Here," then I stood and walked without blinking. She tracked me like a hunter waiting for a stumble. "No entourage," she smirked, eyes on my bag. "Proof first," I said, hands still. "Identity claim, something I can verify now." She slid a phone across the stone slowly. A gallery opened itself with practiced ease. Screenshots of messages I hadn't seen scrolled past. His name times locations, invitations phrased like contracts. 1 photo froze me because our doorframe showed. "Copies," I said and lifted my own device. She let me capture 3 before tilting the screen away. "Money," she tapped the corner and smiled thinly. "No cash," I answered, voice even and low. "Trade for the bracelet," and the threat stop. "Trade for nothing," I corrected and nodded at her phone. "That belongs in a report, not your pocket." The sedan across the street adjusted half a meter. I felt the invisible line tighten across the plaza. "You keep bringing friends," she murmured without turning. "They like meeting new people," I said, not joking. Her jaw flexed once and then settled. "Let's walk." She pushed off the ledge and drifted left. I followed with 3 paces between us and room to pivot. "Ever think you preferred the quiet after you?" she threw. "That's not a fact, that's bait." I kept my gaze on her hands. She laughed, quick and empty, and turned toward the kiosks. "Locker 14, she said conversationally, not hiding the cue. "Your friend took the wrong thing from the tray." "Your friend claimed it first," I countered, voice clipped. "You want it opened, file the paperwork." Her eyes narrowed because I had already done that. "Fine, 5 grand and I vanish," she tried again. 5 grand buys silence," I said, not truth. "Truth gets you restraint orders and a record." She tilted her head like she had heard that before. Then her tone went colder than the fountain spray. "He told me you never listen unless someone blades." I stepped closer until she could count my breaths. "That's over, I listen when facts land." "Here's one," she leaned in, almost smiling. "He isn't the only one who used your address." My stomach dropped once, then locked. Who else and when? I asked, drier than chalk. She traced a circle on the stone with her nail. Different man, same key, same laugh. You love riddles when you don't have receipts. Why? Have a photo, she cooed and swiped. A blurred figure on our stairs, time stamped yesterday. Not my husband, different jacket, taller frame. Send that, I demanded, pulse punching my throat. Buy it, she countered, eyes bright with calculation. Or I call a name and watch you react, I said. She paused, which was all I needed. I texted the officer a single letter and the plaza name. The sedan doors opened like a yawn. Two plainclothes started our way without hurry. She clocked them and changed tempo. Look at me, not them, she hissed. You think they'll fix your marriage with paperwork? Marriage stands or falls on rules, I answered. Today is about safety, not us. Last chance, she said, palms up in mock peace. Trade the bracelet for the phone and peace. I took a breath and let silence work. Then I pulled the bag zipper 2 inches. Her pupils widened because she believed I'd comply. I took out the recorder instead and pressed play. Her threat from last night filled the plaza clearly. The officers stopped behind her and waited. She went still like a chess piece pinned. I paused the clip and raised one eyebrow. A uniform stepped in with measured calm. Ma'am, we need a conversation off the fountain. She kept her eyes on me and smiled again. You brought cops to a lover's quarrel, she taunted. Incorrect framing, I answered, almost calm. Extortion, trespass, targeted harassment, I counted on fingers. Plus interference at his workplace. Plus the club locker claim under false name. Her smirk thinned because the list had teeth. The uniform gestured toward the curb with professional patience. She slid onto the curb like a bored queen. Do you know who I work for? She tried. Someone who told you to test my threshold. Someone already driving away, I added, nodding at the sedan. The car peeled off, which told everyone enough. The officer read her a short script and paused. Will you surrender the device voluntarily? She shrugged and handed it over with theatrical grace. Make a copy, she chirped, I love archives. The second officer bagged it and clicked a seal. Where's the bracelet? She asked, sudden and intent. I didn't blink or reach for anything. It's secured off-site with witness signatures. She stared like she might bite through stone. You really changed the terrain, didn't you? Next steps, the uniform prompted, eyes on me. Statement at precinct, then a written no contact. Then a property check at the club locker. Then workplace security looped in today. The officer nodded and motioned toward the crosswalk. She rose and stepped close enough to whisper. He told me you were all defense and no risk. I held her gaze until she blinked first. I take calculated risks only when cornered. You're the one who lost the corner. We walked toward the car without touching. She tossed one more line over her shoulder. That kid in the background wasn't mine. I stumbled half a step because that mattered. She smiled, satisfied, and climbed into the cruiser. I texted him 3 words. Safe, police involved, he answered with one. HR, then another, meeting. I pictured his face and the way he holds guilt. He would either finish the day or implode. The officer lined in the open door. We'll need you for a full statement now. I'll follow in my car with counsel on call. He nodded once and handed me a card. Expect contact from a detective by evening. As they pulled into traffic, my phone buzzed again. An email from the club with a scanned log page. Locker 14 rented under a name we both knew. Not hers, not his, an intermediary with a clean record. I forwarded it to the officer and to my attorney. I stood alone at the edge of the plaza. My hands shook once and then settled. I looked at the benches we'd just used as stage. I had negotiated without flinching and meant it. But the new name on that log kept ticking like a fuse. I walked straight into the station and handed over the packet. The detective opened the envelope and aligned everything by type. We replayed the clip from the fountain without commentary. He pulled a legal pad closer and underlined 3 times. Your meet today triggered a bigger case. Bigger how? I kept my back against the chair. He slid a photocopy toward me with a neutral face. The rental form showed a different signature than hers. Same intermediary name that arrived in my inbox earlier. Recognize the handwriting? He asked, watching my jaw. I did not answer until I could breathe. Not family, not friends, I thought through recent paperwork. He tapped a business card clipped to the corner. A facilities contractor with access to badge logs. My stomach tightened because that meant entry points everywhere. Do not return home alone, he instructed, pen still. We will sweep later and notify the property manager. Your noon show gave us leverage and witnesses. He shrugged, led the contractor's name and drew an arrow. Expect a warrant request by afternoon. I signed my statement and added 2 updates. The new stairwell photo and the line about the child. He noted the detail and looked up sharply. If a minor appears again, call immediately. I nodded because that could reroute the whole thing. Outside, my phone buzzed with a calendar pop. 10:30 sharp at the company conference room. Do not go in blind, my attorney messaged back. Ask to record and insist on a neutral note. I thanked her and tucked the card in my wallet. I reached the lobby and texted him 2 words. I'm coming, he answered with 1, now. I took the elevator and listened to my own pulse. When doors opened, security waited with clipped expressions. Leave your device in this tray. I placed my cell and kept my face blank. They walked me down a quiet corridor without chatter. Inside a table, a compliance rep and his manager. He sat rigid, hands flat, eyes focused on nothing. A printed photo lay centered like bait. Why was this sent to our inbox? The rep asked. I lined careful and read the timestamp again. The image showed his building entrance at dawn. A message overlaid the picture in block letters. Pay or everyone sees more. Because someone weaponized your directory, I replied, steady. Because an outside actor targeted his livelihood. I slid the police card across the table slowly. Case number on the back, contact already established. The manager's pen hovered, then started moving again. Do you have proof this is targeted? Came next. I lifted the printouts of the wrist tags and logs. His manager selected the rental sheet and frowned hard. He recognized the contractor's name without hiding it. Security exchanged a glance that confirmed my suspicion. Your vendor controls badge resets, I said, voice calm. Your vendor rented the storage box in question. Your vendor had camera access during last night's disturbance. The rep leaned back as if the air tilted. Please wait here while we confirm internally. They exited together and left us with the guard. He closed the door and stood near the wall. I turned to my husband and counted a beat. Clinic paperwork, I whispered, palm up, eyes on him. He slid the folder to me like it was glass. I scanned the results and the follow-up date. He had actually done the whole panel without prodding. Thank you, I said and let it land. He nodded once and looked at the door again. Trust is not one gesture, but this was a start. The rep returned with 2 people from legal. They introduced themselves and set a small recorder down. Do we have your consent to capture this meeting? Yes, and send me a copy afterward. They nodded and adjusted their plan on the fly. We suspended the contractor 15 minutes ago, legal said. Badge disabled and laptop locked remotely. We brought in a second vendor to pull logs. I watched his manager exhale like a tire. Then he turned to my husband with a measured tone. You can stay if you follow a narrow path. Work on supervised systems only for now. Provide the case number and copies of threats. Attend a check-in daily until this resolves. He swallowed and accepted every line without bargaining. A receptionist appeared with a sealed pouch. Inside, 2 thumb drives labeled evidence for counsel. Legal slid 1 to me and 1 to security. The second stays on-site unless subpoenaed. I pictured the tray at the club and nodded. My phone buzzed again inside the tray by the door. Security retrieved it and glanced at the screen. Same number as before, he murmured and offered it back. A new message waited with a street photo attached. Our building entrance again, but from a different angle. Meet me without cops or I decorate your lobby. I held the screen so Legal could read it. Reply with a neutral line, counsel advised quietly. I typed slowly so I did not spit fire. I will communicate through my attorney only. Forward that to the detective, Legal instructed the rep. Then coordinate with our physical security lad. They turned to me with an almost reluctant respect. You handled the morning well under pressure. I did not smile because nothing was fixed yet. We left the room together with security in front. At the elevator, my phone pinged with a new sender. Unknown again with a single attachment and no words. A photo of my mailbox open and rifled. The flap curled like a crooked grin. I moved sideways to the wall for cover. This is live, I told security, palm raised. He issued a short radio call and stiffened. Stay in the lobby while we sweep outside. I watched the street through glass and counted corners. My attorney called and I answered immediately. Get a property manager on the line now. Ask about spare keys and access lists. I put her on speaker and made the request. The receptionist pulled up a digital ledger fast. A name appeared that did not belong to us. One spare key check out yesterday at 4. Signed by a temp with the same last name. The contractor's cousin, the line felt greasy. Freeze the account and change the cylinders today. Consider a hotel tonight, my attorney added gently. Do not sleep where access is compromised. I weighed the cost against the risk without blinking. Book it near the station, no view united. Safety beats pride when the floor shifts. He touched my elbow and waited for my eyes. I will come if you want me there. I looked at him until I felt sure. You will come, but you do not share the room. We need distance and rules to rebuild anything. We picked up our devices and headed out. Security walked us to the ride-share stand. Across the street, a bike rolled slow and slanted. The rider lifted a camera and took 3 shots. He sped off, which told me the cousin had friends. I called the detective before the engine merged. We have names, logs, and a fresh break-in. He answered with one instruction and a plan. Go to the hotel and keep everything charged. Units will meet you for a recorded handoff. The driver asked our stop and I gave the hotel. I watched our block fade and fought the urge to look back. He set his hands on his knees and breathed. Thank you for not abandoning me today. I kept my stare on the mirror and chose my next promise carefully. You get one more chance to meet every term. You will follow through without me prompting. You will face the therapist and tell the full truth. His mouth twitched, then steadied into something like resolve. He nodded once, and for the first time I believed it might hold. My cell vibrated with a final email before the tunnel. Subject line evidence chain with attachments from the club. A still frame captured the intermediary's face at the kiosk. Clear centered, time stamped to the minute. I saved it twice, then braced for the evening knock. The hotel door clicked once and 2 officers stepped in. I placed the tote on the desk without flourish. He stood near the curtain and kept his hands visible. We opened the chain of custody envelope together. I named each item and waited. For acknowledgement. Any new contact, the younger one asked, eyes up. I slid my phone across with the mailbox photo. They photographed my screen and wrote a quick note. We have patrol watching your block tonight. Expect a knock before they clear the stairwell. A rap sounded anyway, 3 deliberate beats. The older officer lifted a hand for silence. Stay put while we verify, he murmured, palm steady. He checked the peephole and relaxed half an inch. Hotel security with a printed list and a frown. Someone requested a duplicate key 30 minutes ago. Front desk flagged it and stalled. He showed the name and I felt the floor tilt. The contractor's cousin again, insistent and sloppy. He's downstairs asking for your room number. Escort him off the property now, the officer instructed. Hold him if he refuses or wanders. Security nodded and walked into the hallway briskly. I closed the deadbolt and watched the handle anyway. Some doors vibrate with intentions they barely contain. My phone lit with an unknown call. I hit speaker and set it on the table. Your husband owes us for time and risk. That debt doesn't exist, I answered, tone flat. Your group created that risk for payment leverage. Bring the band and we forget the rest. Not a chance, I said and tapped the recorder. You're on the line with witnesses present. Silence stretched until a small chuckle slipped through. You think process will protect you forever. A text arrived mid-call with a street view. Our building again, an unfamiliar arm in the frame. Fire alarm could be so instructive tonight, the voice mused. I stiffened and met the officer's gaze squarely. We'll put a patrol outside right now. They left to coordinate and returned with updates. 2 units posted on your block within minutes. Property manager is changing locks this afternoon. I signed another paper and returned my phone. He stood straighter like his spine remembered pride. Therapy confirmation, I told him, palm up. He showed the booking text and the clinic address. Tomorrow morning at 9 sharp, he added quietly. I nodded and filed the screenshot with the rest. Promises start small, then build into scaffolding. A knock again lighter, followed by a familiar voice. Hotel security, we need a quick word. The officer opened while keeping his stance ready. They had the cousin between 2 guards, wrists loose. He smiled like a kid caught skimming tips. Wrong floor, he shrugged, eyes running over our room. Untrue, I answered, stepping forward half a pace. You requested a spare and asked for me by name. His grin warped into something brittle and thin. Prove it, he dared, chin lifted. Front desk produced the log with a flourish. Signature matches your employee file record. The officer read him his options in crisp beats. He chose the worst path, a quick twist toward the hall. 2 guards pinned him before he finished that pivot. They removed him while he cursed without creativity. The squad called upstairs 3 minutes later. Custody confirmed, he'll enjoy a long interview. I exhaled through my nose and counted to 5. One piece had dropped, others hovered like flies. The detective called next with a direct plan. Search warrants in motion for devices and lockers. We'll seize whatever is in 14 today. Stay put until we clear your place. Then meet me at the station at 6. We used the lull to outline tasks in order. He wrote each step on a notepad without shaking. Doctor follow-up, HR check-in, therapist intake. Replace keys, report insurance, freeze credit. He tapped the last line twice like a pledge. Boundaries, I added and looked him dead on. Guest room at home until trust is measurable. No access to my accounts or mail. No private meetings with anyone from that circle. He nodded once, then again, like nailing boards. He looked at the floor and then at me. I told the counselor about asking to open us. That hit like a thrown stone I had expected. I also said I used you as an excuse. He swallowed hard and kept his eyes up. Meaning, I kept my voice clean and cool. I blamed our rules for my selfish cravings. I liked being wanted without responsibilities. And I punished you for refusing to vanish. He braced for impact while I chose my words carefully. I'm not your rehab or your punishment. I am a boundary you failed to respect. You will not love me with lies again. He flinched, then straightened, then took a breath. Hold me to every line you set. The detective texted mid-conversation with 2 frames. Locker 14 open, tray emptied under supervision. A ledger page showing cash bundles with serials photographed. Another device recovered and bagged with gloves. Intermediary is detained, interviewing now, the message ended. A new ping appeared from my attorney. Civil paperwork drafted, want a protective order today. Do it, I replied without waiting for air. My finger hovered on the next choice deliberately. I will also request temporary separation terms. He closed his eyes like a wave hit him. Do it, he echoed, voice even this time. Not to punish, to keep you safe. I studied his face for telltale anger or blame. Nothing surfaced except quiet effort and shame. The officers returned with a final update. Your apartment is clear and secured for now. Locks changed, packages collected as evidence. You can enter with us and pick essentials. We gathered our bags and moved together without chatter. The hallway at home looked normal on purpose. One officer swept first, then waved us forward. I took a suitcase and packed only what mattered. Documents, medications, a few clothes, nothing sentimental. He followed my list and kept his eyes busy. On the table, an envelope waited without stamp. Inside, a printed photo of my living room empty. The timestamp matched the spare key checkout yesterday. Who placed this? The officer asked, jaw tight. I pointed to the camera near the door. We pulled the footage onto my drive. Frame by frame, the cousin entered with a grin. He held up the lens with 2 fingers raised. Left behind the photo like a calling card. His arrogance would make court easier and shorter. We left for the station and avoided side streets. My phone vibrated with a blocked caller mid-ride. I let it pass straight to voicemail and glanced at him. He watched my hands and mirrored my calm. Regulation can be contagious if you model it. At the precinct, the detective met us with a stack. Your case now links to 3 other reports. Same lockers, same threats, same contractor pipeline. He slid a written statement form across the counter. Describe the fountain meat in detail for the file. I wrote it out in simple lines and pauses. She arrived early, she tried to barter. She referenced a second man at my stairwell. She surrendered a device when police appeared. She mentioned a kid who wasn't hers. Good, the detective said, eyes scanning quickly. We'll process charges for extortion and stalking. Your neighbor's hallway camera might help too. We'll canvass tonight and request duplicates with consent. He handed me a temporary order for service. We walked outside into the evening traffic. He stood beside me, hands in pockets, steady. I will move into the spare, he said quietly. Therapy at 9, HR at 10, detective at noon. I heard the cadence and believed the schedule mattered. The hotel felt less like hiding and more like staging. We set our things down and reviewed our plan. He made the calls without prompting and noted each outcome. I forwarded updates to counsel and saved every reply. The web of proof tightened around the right people. My phone rang with my attorney's number again. Judge signed the protective order, she announced. Service will occur before midnight if we find her. Expect a call if anything stalls or shifts. I thanked her and ended with a sharper breath. He reached for my hand and stopped halfway. May I? He asked, voice almost careful. Not yet, I answered and did not move. Earn it with weeks, not minutes. His hand settled on the table instead. The detective texted a final line before night. Intermediary flipped and gave up the contractor. Warrants executed at storage and apartment. Multiple devices seized with shared message templates. Expect a morning briefing with full details. I lay back on the bed and watched the door. He closed the curtains and set 2 glasses down. Neither of us touched them because focus mattered. In the quiet, a future started tiptoeing into shape. It would not be soft, but it would be ours to choose. He looked over and waited for permission to speak. Do you want me to leave after court? The question had waited all day to appear. Stay, I said, in the spare under our rules. If you fall once, the door locks for good. He nodded and folded the blanket at his feet. I'll be early to therapy and brutal with honesty. Call me out if I dodge or minimize. I won't dodge, he added, jaw set. I believed him enough to test the claim. Night settled and the city kept moving outside. We both kept our clothes on and our devices near. A chime arrived close to midnight with a short note. Order served, suspect advised, no contact reinforced. I texted back a single word that felt like breath. Received, I placed the phone face down and stared up. He turned off the lamp and lay on top of the covers. Distance felt like discipline and not punishment now. Somewhere inside, the worst of the fear unclenched. Morning would bring interviews, then the counselor, then decisions. I closed my eyes and ran the plan again. Police at 8, therapist at 9, HR at 10. Detective at noon, attorney at 3 for filings. Locks changed, access revoked, evidence secured. Me and co. Entral him in the spare, future on probation. Sleep came in pieces and left me listening hard. No footsteps, no rattling, no staged photos sliding under. Just our breath and the hum of another door nearby. I counted backward from 50 and let lids fall. When I woke, I knew exactly what I would keep.